Let me just tell y'all, before we introduce our keynote speaker, Marvina Case is a sensational, oh, wait a minute, don't stop me. She's a sensational woman, guys. You guys give her a round of applause. She's been in the back preparing everything. She works hard. She's our communications director. She's very smart, and you're about to find out. God bless you. Thank you.
Well, hello, everybody.
Hello.
Are people still inside? Come on outside, y'all. I'm from Gary. Y'all need to listen to me. If you don't know what Gary is, it's the former murder capital of the world. And do you know why? Because it went Democrat.
I'll talk to you when you finish.
And when it went Democrat, everything went down. The jobs left the country. Not just the state, they left the country. There are more babies dying every day there, not because of abortion, though that happens, but because they're being shot. Because when you don't respect life, the most innocent form of life, all lives are expendable. Yes. Now, I wanted to say this to you all because I am proud to say that this election I have changed with the help of God, because only through Him can you help people that are helpless and hopeless find hope and find value in themselves. I have helped 22 people change their vote to intelligence. Yes. Now, if you don't know what intelligence is, that's conservatism. That says, I love me some me. That's what it says. And that's what they didn't understand. I had one girl come to me, but you're black. I said, oh my, am I? I didn't know I was black. She goes, how could you vote against yourself? I said, against myself? Voting for Donald Trump? Against myself? I said, I should vote for Biden, huh? 47 years and he's put more black men in jail than they put themselves. He doesn't want, what was it? I don't want my children growing up in a racial jungle. He equated black children with roaches. Oh, and that's right. I'm not black. But you know what? I'm going to give him credit for that one because he's right. I'm not black. The light bulb is on in my brain. I am bright. So I see that the only way to ensure American dream, or what I like to say is the American reality, because it's not a dream, because I was born with everything that people say that should make you successful. I was born, I'm legally blind, I have something called keratoconus, I have giganticism, I was in a severe car accident which left me unable to walk. I lost my basketball scholarship at Purdue. I was a starting center and I lost my scholarship. But because I was smart and I started a catering business, because that's what tenacity and conservatism will do for you.
All right.
I didn't owe a dime when I graduated. So, what I'm trying to ask you to do tonight, tomorrow, and every day until this election, don't be afraid to walk up to somebody and say, who are you voting for and why? You have to talk to people in order to change them. They have to be able to see you as an individual and understand why you're voting for someone. I wear a shirt to Whole Foods. Now, I'm already going to stand out at 6'4" and 240 pounds. But I wear a shirt, my shirt says white trash. As you can imagine, it is a confrontation starter. And I pair it with Confederate flag shorts. And I don't wear a mask. Now, I don't know if it's black privilege or if it's because I'm 6'4" and 240, but nobody says anything. So I walk in there and people say, why are you wearing that shirt? I said, well, I've been called white trash. Actually, if you didn't know it, I am a racist. Two papers here in Houston called me a racist. Said I was a supremacist, a white supremacist. And I just couldn't believe it because I was like, really? Who are they talking about? This person is horrible. And I read the article, it's my name. Now, I have an Asian daughter, 2 mixed children, and about 1,500 children around the world that call me mom. But
right.
I am definitely not racist because I know that there is only one race, and that's the human race.
All right.
So you're all a shade of brown. I don't care if you're light brown or dark brown or anything in between. Just talk to people and convince them that they need to love themselves, because that's the problem. They don't respect and love themselves. And they need to love God too, especially if you talk to these lightweight, or like I like to call them, Christian light individuals who think, I'm voting Democrat because Democrats are for me. Ask them what they've got from that. Ask them what Democrats have done for them. Ask them how they have impacted their lives and made them better. And then ask them if they are pedophiles. Ask them if they prefer boys or girls. Ask them, do they like their children burnt from the inside out, or so like pieces of chicken? Make them think. Because when people begin to think, they begin to question. And when they begin to question, they change. And you can't be afraid. If we are afraid and we stay silent, we will get somebody like Biden or somebody worse. I don't know if there is anybody worse, but come on. Well, yes. Only person that can live 50 years and somehow like a salmon change races. But anyway, we're just going to leave it alone. I'm going to introduce Mr. Williams now. I understand we have similar stories, that he was injured, was on drugs, changed his life, and is now a successful businessman and doing great things. So without further ado, Mr. Williams.
My boy.
That's me.
I was looking at you. I thought he was over here. He was making such Well, I am.
How are you guys?
Alright, good.
My name is, can you guys hear me back here at the back? Can you guys hear me at the back? Perfect. My name is Keenan Williams. I am the strategic director for the Trump campaign. And it is very exciting knowing that I work for the President of the United States of America.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Number one, at some point it was almost unbelievable. However, when you have a president who believes in the Constitution, who believes that the Constitution not only has redemption built in it, but it also creates the opportunity for Americans to become successful regardless of your race, color, creed, or your background.
Absolutely.
That's why we're conservatives. That's why we have to get President Donald J. Trump back into office. The other thing about him is this. So I'm going to touch on a couple of points. I'm going to talk about the president first, and then I'll go to some things, some of the adversarial advents and obstacles that I had to overcome, and then I'll get to becoming a Republican, okay? So 3 points. One of the things about the president is this: he's different. He's different. He's not an average president. He's not presidential. He's not political. He's not a politician. He's a leader. That's what makes him different.
That's right.
You can't quite control what he's going to say. I've watched him read from the script and then throw the script away, and he just starts flowing.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that. I like real people. We don't need any more actors from Hollywood. We need real people in the White House. The other thing that's different about him is that when people can't categorize the president, they have a tendency of criticizing the president. See, America, on the other side, has an issue with really embracing the differences of one another. I can embrace the president and his difference because I'm different. I can appreciate the president and how straightforward he is because of what he's doing with his policies, with his character, and fighting for the Constitution. No other president in the United States of America has released more black men from prison than President Donald J. Trump. Statistically proven. No other president in the United States of America has ever released a black man when he went into office. It's always when he's leaving office. That shows the agenda of the president. He has supported historically black colleges, relieving them of $322 million of debt. He signed a Senate bill that says historically black colleges would forever be funded. President Donald J. Trump signed the First Step Act, where the first 4,000 men were released from prison. 91% were black. But they say he's a racist. We have a president who has created opportunity zones for minority communities. He understands that in minority communities, the most empowering thing that we can do to a minority is empower them economically.
Yes.
You and I read the Bible where it says that the love of money is the root of all evil. But I wrote a new proverb when I was broke. The lack of it is as well.
That's right.
I understand economical power. So I appreciate the president. was there this past weekend, and we do all kinds of conference calls, and I drag her all around the country. Charlene, my girlfriend, she's amazing. She rides right with me. I'm always dragging her around to speaking engagements, but she loves it. She fits right in, and so I appreciate that. It's also very important. I'm going to say this to the men. It's very important for you to have a woman that speaks to the king in you.
Yes. That's right.
Yes, say it again.
It's very important, you men, to choose a woman that speaks to the king in you and not the fool.
That's right.
Because every man has a fool on the inside of him. You know, guys in prison asked me that one time. They said, how will I know who she is? Listen to what she says. It's important for the woman to understand what she's looking for so that when she sees him, she knows him.
Yes.
Because if she sees a king, she'll speak to the king. And if one hadn't spoken to you yet as a king, that means you may need to go do some self-checking, little evaluating. That's another story.
I like that.
You know, I'm blessed. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been to every major city in the United States of America. I've been to every Martin Luther King Boulevard there is on purpose. Because I know when I go to Martin Luther King Boulevard, that's where the black people are.
Yes.
And so I intentionally go there because I want to get out and encourage those that I see. I want to pray for them. I want to build them up. I want to speak words of confidence to them because I understand that hopeless people make hopeless decisions. So if I can give a man one word of hope that will stir up the faith that is inside of him, he might just grab a dream.
That's
See,
right.
hope cannot work. Faith can't work without hope.
That's right.
Faith works by hope. And so we need to learn to speak hope into people.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Beautiful.
It wasn't many years ago, probably 25, 30, it's been 25, 30 years ago. I haven't had a drink since 1993. Cigarette, alcohol, drugs, no nothing since 1993. And listen, I feel great. I don't even have a desire for it. I was telling my friend who's here tonight, I said, man, you know, I understand 12-step programs, but I took one step in Jesus and I was done. Now, my done didn't go because I worship great. I'm going to get into what has happened in my life. Back in 1986, being a high school football star, preseason blue chipper, I was very good at football, but I grew up in the hood. You know the hood where the black people are, right? I mostly speak to all white audiences, so I have to do Ebonical translations. And in the hood where the black people are, I was bused to the neighborhood to schools that were 98% white. And here's the crazy thing. When I say the hood, I have to think about Margaret Sanger, how smart she must have been. She called it Planned Parenthood.
All right.
How smart are we?
Wake up.
She knew exactly what she was doing. But yet she's Hillary Clinton's hero.
Yep.
I quit high school with 2 weeks left after having a knee injury. And I joined the gang. When I left my house, to the right were the gang members and to the left were the drug dealers. The pimps, the players, the hustlers. The streets. As my football career ended and the doctor told me I could never play football again, my mother walks into the house while I'm lying on the couch with my knee up and my dream shattered, and she says to me, your father not getting a divorce. I'm just grabbing my clothes because I'm afraid he's going to hurt me. And a 17-year-old young man is lying there with his dream shattered. And I know people look and say, but you had choices. Let me tell you something. You don't know what's on the menu until they hand you the menu when you're in the restaurant. It's hard to make a choice on the menu you've never held in your hand.
That's right.
I didn't have the opportunity to see senators and congressmen. No one ever put a door hanger on my door or knocked on the door and said, I'm congressman. I'm with the Republican Party.
Never seen that.
Maybe if I had found a door hanger somewhere that said the Republican or conservative on the back and told me about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, maybe I would have become one at an early age. These are words of accountability that we all have to understand the importance, number one, of getting out there and being active so that people will know who we are. But listen to me, you cannot win who you offend.
Okay.
When criticism begins, your influence will end. We have to understand that God loves them the way that he loves us. Yeah. I don't know about you, but God met me in the midst of my idiosyncrasies and my foolishness. He still said, I love you. He didn't turn me away. He didn't call me names. He loved me where I was at. From 1986 to 1993, I was shot 6 times. 2 different occasions. Survived 2 hits in the streets. I was arrested over 45 times. From 1989 to 1993, I was homeless. I slept in vacant houses, no lights, no gas, and no water. Not even a pair of shoes on my feet. I wore socks. I remember mornings and nights and days, and I knew it was Sunday because I would see the people with the nice suits on, and they would go to the place with the cross on top. See, I wasn't raised in the church, so I didn't understand that. But I knew that they went to the place where people told me that God was.
All right.
The thing that affected me is when they locked the door. And I was homeless and I was hurting because, listen, on the inside, I still had a passion to be somebody. But I didn't know how to come out of it. I didn't understand how to shake this thing off of my life. Crack cocaine got a hold of me. 1986. And I went from selling it to smoking it. It's when it hit the streets was in 86. No, everyone was clueless of what crack cocaine would have done to our neighborhoods. Remember, it was a few years later when they passed the crime bill. Crack cocaine got longer sentences than regular cocaine. I'm just sharing a few things with you.
Been there.
Being homeless and on those corners on Sundays, and I would see the people pass by with the nice suits on and they locked the door. I'll never forget what that lock sounded like. Still resonates in my ear sometimes. It wasn't the ones that were afraid of me that hurt me. It was the ones that locked the door and they looked at me as though I had trash on me. They looked me up and down as though I was inferior to who they were. Like I didn't belong on earth because I was hooked on drugs and alcohol and I was homeless. I didn't raise my hand in the 3rd grade and say I want to be a drug addict. I raised my hand and said I want to be a professional football player. I had dreams and aspirations like my friends did that went on to college.
Yeah. That's real.
You have to make sure we don't lock the doors on people.
Yes.
Amen.
And I'm not telling you to get out,
Yes.
but maybe just praying
Yeah.
or crack in the window and say Jesus loves you. And have hope that old things one day will be passed away.
Yes.
And behold, all things in your life will become new. So those people hurt me. I vowed to never become a Christian because of them.
Yes.
Religion kills, doesn't it?
Yes, it is.
Later found out they were just religious people. By 1993 of being homeless, and I went on a streak of robberies. You know, I was robbed. I went to prison for aggravated robbery, deadly weapon, bodily injury, unlawfully carrying a weapon, 2 assault charges, terroristic threats, forgery, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, and carrying guns. I had a gun problem. And I just want you to know, even though I did a lot of robberies, I never robbed regular people. It was only drug dealers. So I was an ethical robber. I had some integrity about my robbing skills, you know what I mean? I was a selective robber. That's why I got shot so many times. Robbing the dope houses. They couldn't call the police, so I figured it's a good spot to stop, you know? But in 1993, as they were looking for me with all the charges, and they had orders that if I moved wrong to shoot and kill. There was a card that was left at my grandmother's house as the police were around her house, and they had helicopters, and I talked with her on the phone, and she gave me the number, and so I called the detective that was on there. His name was Detective Alan Patton. I called him, I said, Detective Alan Patton, I know you're looking for me. My name's Keenan Williams. He said, yes, we are. I said, I know I've done a lot of wrong things, but if you give me 24 hours to spend with my family, I would really appreciate it. I said, because I know I'm going to be going to prison for a long time. A white detective who had no other reason other than God being in his heart says to a criminal, I'll give you 24 hours and I'll make sure that no police touch you while you spend time with your family.
Okay.
See, he wasn't a white detective after a black man. He was a detective doing his job, and I recognize that. So for the first time in 7 years, a detective handed me responsibility and made me feel like I was somebody in the midst of crime.
All right.
When I hit prison, prison was a different deal. The first 4 years of prison, I was still gangbanging. I was still doing everything that God said not to do, and I was angry, I was frustrated, I was hurt, I was angry at my parents, I was angry at my friends who didn't come and save me or didn't help me, or my cousins. I was angry at everyone. Especially my father, who gave me a gun at 9 years old. He started the gun thing. I had fights with a kid next door, and at 9 years old, my father hands me a gun, 44 Magnum, and said, when they walk up the stairs, you better shoot them. At 9 years old, that was the anger, that was the toxicity in my household. What was I supposed to do? 4 years after prison, I liked the way the Muslims carried themselves. I loved the discipline God was talking to me. So I became a Muslim. It was cool because I could be a Muslim and still be a gang leader. And that's okay, I get it. I don't condemn religions. I don't condemn anyone's way of worship, because God owns heaven and hell, not me. I got to make sure I get there.
All right.
But after 4 years of being locked down, there was a riot, and I was involved in the riot. There were a lot of people that got hurt. And being a gang leader, they locked me away for 30 days in solitary confinement. And as I'm in there, I start having a conversation with God. God, why me? Why am I in prison? Why didn't I go to college like my friends went to UT and Texas Tech, and everyone was bragging and excited, and that's what made me quit school? Why is this happening to me? I didn't ask for this. Have you ever had a conversation with God like that? When something wasn't quite right going in your life that you planned? And it felt good, so the second night I had another conversation with him. And at this point, being a Muslim, I had changed my name in the court. I had submitted everything, changing my name to Ishmael Atab Rahim. I started understanding that I need to do something new, so I said, I guess I'll start with the name. But that second night that I had a conversation with God, something the most weirdest thing happened to me. I said, God, if it takes me being with Jesus, the one that I really don't like, for me to change my life, then I'm okay with that. It was my prayer of salvation. It was my prayer of confession. And when I said that, the power of the Holy Spirit got down deep on the inside of me and apprehended me to where I was running around, shouting, screaming, baptized, filled with the Holy Spirit in a cell, and I had never read a Bible in my life.
All right.
I understood when I got in the Word how Jeremiah said it was like fire shut up in my bones. And the guards were at the door. They're getting ready to come in. And I finally settled down because they thought I was losing my mind. And in reality, I did lose my mind because I was taking on the mind of Christ. And I said, I'm okay. All I know is that Jesus is inside of me. And I had goosebumps and I couldn't stop.
All right.
You understand why I couldn't get a hold of what had gotten a hold of me? Because all of my life, I was strong, I was powerful, and I was a control addict. But I couldn't control him. And when I came out, I went to my dorm and I started telling everybody that Jesus is real. For the next 2 years was different because I consumed myself in things to begin to understand how God wanted to conform, not only conform me, but how he wanted to transform me for his will in my life. I read 248 books in 2 years. I consumed myself. The first thing God taught me was the law of subtraction. I began to subtract all the wrong things out of my life. Wrong people, wrong conversations, wrong television stations, wrong places on the rec yard, wrong times. And as I begin to do the subtraction, God inadvertently began to do the addition and multiplication.
All right.
I began to learn that unless I was willing to subtract,
All right. Beautiful, man.
I couldn't have the true attraction that he wanted me to have. I began to learn the law of honor as I'm reading through the word, how Joseph honored the guards. He honored the inmates. He taught them the ropes. And the craziest thing in 1996 is I'm reading about Joseph and how he went from the prison to the palace. You know, he went from the prison to the palace, and I realized that Joseph, when he had the dream and when he was going from the prison to the palace, he shaved his beard and he cleaned himself up. I didn't just see shaving the beard, but God was helping me understand that the protocol of where you are is different from the protocol of where I'm taking you to. Are you willing to count the cost? Leadership costs. It costs something to be a leader.
All right.
It takes a willingness to give up with the thing that you have held on all of your life. Joseph probably had a long, great, beautiful beard, but he shaved it because the king called him. He said, okay. And when I read that, I told all the guys in church, I said, Joseph went from the prison to the palace. I'm going from the prison to the White House. And they all laughed at me in 1996. The White House, can I tell you something?
All right.
They're not laughing anymore.
That's right.
They're not laughing anymore because when the dream, and God shows you what he's put in you, sometimes it takes time to cultivate that and make preparation. Abraham Lincoln said, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe. Preparation is the key. Because when preparation meets opportunity, it becomes a formula for success. We in America, because of the Constitution, will never fail for a lack of opportunity. We will only fail if we're unprepared when it presents itself.
Okay.
I learned how to walk, talk, think different in prison. I had that super cool walk, that hood walk. Richard Pryor mixed with Huggy Bear. That's right, we bad. You know that walk. See, this is cool. I got a lot of black people in there. They know exactly what I'm talking about. But I understood that I couldn't do that going where God was showing me in his word. Now here's the craziest things. When God shows you where he's taking you to, it will never have anything to do with your situation and circumstance.
That's right.
Let's say it again.
Right.
That's why it's called faith.
Talk about it, my friend.
The dream God gives you is always bigger than where you are. And the reason we dream is because it's his way of projecting what he's put inside of you.
That's right.
The very fact and reality that we are all here right now says that there's something inside of you that God has invested and the enemy can't take out. Says that there's something inside of you that is so important to God here on earth that you are necessary right now. That's why you're still here. Because millions have died between last night and tonight. Millions have died.
That's right.
But we're still here. Why does God still have you here? What's inside that's so important? Is it a book? Is it an invention? Is it a seat in Congress, Wendell? Is it your neighbor that needs to be won for Jesus? Is it your street that needs to understand about the power of the Republican Party and how when we do what God has called us to do, because as Republicans, we win. That's right. We're not in competition with the other side. Get away from the competition thought. How can I compete with someone when I already win?
Yeah. God wins.
500 million sperm were counted to get to one egg. And you made it. And you made it. You won a race that you didn't even know you were in. How did you win that race to get here? Because God put his finger on you and said, you got to get here.
Yes.
That's why we're here. That's the importance of being pro-life. That's why we have to fight for the innocent children that have not yet come to this earth. They're in the womb, but they need to come out because God has a purpose before he makes a man. How can I not believe in that when he says, I foreknew you before you even in your mother's womb? Predestined you to be conformed to the image of my son. That's why I'm pro-life. I'm going to shorten my prison term up, okay? You guys okay with that? I'm not going to go too much longer.
Oh, you're good.
So I changed my walk and I said, God, I'm changing my talk and my walk, and I begin to eat different. I begin to make sure that my posture was right. I said, when I go to the White House, I have to make sure that I'm sitting right as I'm eating with dignitaries. I want them to understand that I know the protocol of the White House.
That's right. Beautiful.
And I changed my walk because I looked at Solomon, and the Bible said that Solomon walked into the temple and the Queen of Sheba fainted. And I said, God, I want to walk like that dude right there.
Yeah.
Any man that can make a woman faint from his walk, I got to walk like him. He's a bad man. They wouldn't let me in school because I was a gang member. I wrote the warden over 150 letters. Every day I write 6 or 7 letters. Let me in school. Let me in school. I'm not in the gang anymore. I'm saved now. Let me in school. Let me in school. Let me in school. For 6 months I wrote letters. And one day I saw him walking across. And man, I said, it's my time now. See, it's something about now.
Oh my God.
Not tomorrow, now. 2 things that don't exist, yesterday and tomorrow. There's something about now. Hebrews says now is the faith. It's the substance of things hoped for. Now faith.
Now faith is the substance.
Do I have a few more minutes left?
Yeah.
Take them.
Okay, I don't have a few more minutes. I got 5 minutes left. Tell me to write the president and tell him I spoke 5 minutes only. He might write me back and say, why didn't you go 10 minutes longer?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if it's a problem, I'll pay for it. I stopped the warden. And I said, Warden Jones, and he turns around with that big cowboy hat. I said, sir. He looks at me, he says, Williams, I know who you are. If you don't write me any more letters, I'll let you in school. I said, yes, sir, that's all I wanted. Persistence and consistency. When we have that dream, I'm exiting prison now. When I left prison, I had a plan. Dream without a plan fuels disappointment. I said I had a plan. The very next day after prison, I got up, same routine, and I got a job that morning. 6 o'clock that morning, I had a job. I was working on the first crew air conditioning technician because I understood that you don't owe me anything. I owe it to myself.
Yes.
My first year out of prison, I went 6 months later, I started my own company. First year, I made $120,000 from 98 to 99. Second year, $230,000 from 99 to 2000. My third year, I made $470,000. My fourth year, I made $1.3 million. My fifth year out of prison, I made $4 million. You know why? Because I believe what God told me, that he that is in me is greater than he that is in the world.
Wow. Yeah.
We have to get that.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what happened yesterday anymore. It doesn't exist. God said, don't worry about being an ex-convict. Because when you and me, you're a new creature created in Christ Jesus. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things become new. All I need you to do is focus on one thing, just like Paul. Paul said, this one thing I do is I press forward towards the mark of the prize.
None of those things that are behind.
Now I'm closing. I got 3 minutes now.
Speak life, my friend.
I made a lot of mistakes, but I haven't stopped. 7 years ago, I met a man. I was speaking for the NAACP, 800 people. I was vice president for the NAACP. And I couldn't figure out how I was having such a hard time with democratic policies and things that were said, because in my heart, that's not who I was. So there was always a struggle between what they said and what I knew. And I knew something wasn't right. It was almost like with me growing up in the hood, but yet going to all white schools, I was like Moses, you know. Moses was born a Hebrew, but he was raised Egyptian. He was too Egyptian to ever become a Hebrew, but he was too Hebrewic to ever become an Egyptian. So for me, I was too black to be white, but I was too white to be black. So I was stuck. I got in the Democratic Party. I was stuck again. The night that I was speaking, the man handed me a card. 2 days prior to that, I saw Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton in a room of 200 people, and I looked at both of them. I said, it was my turn, so I raised my hand. And I looked at both of them. I said, both of you have failed the black race. You took the baton from Martin Luther King and promised you were going to do the right thing, and you got selfish and you put it in your pocket. You have failed this race. Whatever you have to say has no credibility with me. You know I got phone calls that night, right? But God was creating my exit. See, when things start dying all around you, it's God getting ready to, he's killing that so you can go to where it's alive.
That's right.
It's a sad thing to be where God was. It's a great thing to be where God is. I met a man who loved me for 6 months, and then he met me at this event. 6 months later, I looked at him as we had conversation, built relationship. He never pushed being a Republican on me. I looked at him after 6 months, and I said, Rodney, I think I'm a stinking Republican. And he says, I know you are. I said, why didn't you tell me that? He said, because I wanted you to discover it. You were always a Republican. All minorities were Republicans before the 1900s when Woodrow Wilson came in. All blacks were Republicans. None were Democratic.
Right, that's true.
Closing with this. Little history lesson here. Most people have no idea. Who knows when the first black judge was chosen in the United States of America as Justice of the Peace? When would you say? Just give me a date. You were real close, but you were 100 years off. 1768. Wentworth Cheswell. Most people are clueless that the same man, Wentworth Cheswell, as Paul Revere went that way, Wentworth Cheswell, a black man, went the other way, saying the British are coming. These are the things that they have hidden from us. The Democrats Democratic Party doesn't want us to know that we have always fought together in America. The American Revolution was full of black people fighting.
Man, the first
man
shot
to
to
die
die
on American
Yes,
soil was a black
black
man
man,
named
the
Crispus
Crispus
Attucks,
Attucks.
fighting for the American
That's right.
Revolution.
That's right.
We have always mingled and mixed together and fought for the freedom of our country.
That is
George
right.
Washington had two men in his general council, Prince Whipple and James Armstead. James Armstead was the very first double spy in America. Whatever I tell you is Googleable. And I'm Googleable too. We need to know these things.
Right.
We need to understand that when that big war, the Battle of Lexington, the shot heard around the world, there was a pastor named Reverend Jonas Clark who had a church.
Yes.
And the war breaks out, and guess what? Inside of his church was a mixed congregation. Did you know that? A mixed congregation. He was preaching to blacks and whites. Sir Lemuel Haynes was the first black man to ever receive his doctorate in theology. And he had 4 all-white churches. Let me tell you guys something. I'm closing now. America, when it's time to fight, we know how to come together. Black, white, brown, women, children, tall, short, fat, skinny. It doesn't matter. Right now, it's time for us to come together in America. It's time for us to fight for our constitutional rights. But we don't need to fight the fight that they're trying to get us to fight. We need to choose the fight of excellence where faith lies. Remember, mediocrity falls into the crowd, but excellence rises to the top. We as Republicans are people of excellence, and we have to choose that every single day. I'm Keenan Williams. Thank you, guys.